You're listening to the Spark Your Light podcast, where my mission is to help you create a life that sparks the light inside of you. And this is episode number 282, The Greatest Manifestation Hack, Becoming Her. This episode is for you if you are always looking for all the manifestation content. You just soak it all up, all of the tools and tricks and strategies. And especially for you, if sometimes you get a little bit confused about some of these concepts, like act as if, and showing up as this future version of yourself. And you get the concept, but when you try to actually do it, it seems to be quite difficult. If all of that resonates, then you're going to love today's episode. I've recently been doing a lot of reflecting on my journey and how I've gotten to where I am today. And the other day I was walking with my husband and we were talking about Jacqueline 3.0. It's this version of myself I refer to as kind of the newest version of me. And so years ago when I was working on becoming a better version of myself, I would talk about Jacqueline 2.0 and who she was and what she looked like and all the things. And now I really feel like I'm Jacqueline 3.0. And it was funny because my husband's like, what? Who's this? Because I told him we were walking and he was like, wow, like just the way you're walking. And I'm like, oh, it's Jacqueline 3.0. You didn't know? And it's this funny little hack I have. And we were talking about manifestation and I was telling him, you know what? It's funny because all of the manifestation content teaches you to act as if you are her, the person that you want to be. Show up as that person and start to think their thoughts. And eventually you'll become that person and you'll manifest the things you want. And so for years and years, I really tried that. I would get really clear on who that next version of me was. I named her. I would write about her and her life and what it looked like and all of the things that she had and just how she lived every day, how she carried herself, who she was. And I would try really hard to pretend I was her, but I would struggle immensely for so many reasons. I would get caught up in all of the little things, whether it was, oh, well, she actually like buys herself X, Y, and Z, but I can't afford those things. So, how do I act as if, and, her schedule looks completely different because she has a different business. She's so much farther along. She has different things on her calendar, right? And so I just kept getting stuck. And then even when I would think about, okay, well, how does she feel? And I just always felt like I was hitting a block. Do you ever feel like that when you're trying to manifest and you're trying to put into practice all of these different things that you hear about, yet for some reason they just don't seem to click? And as I was talking to my husband and as I've been reflecting on my success, I was thinking about how what's different about this time is I actually am her. So I'm not trying to become this next version of me. I actually have become her. I'm not acting like I'm her. I'm not pretending I'm her when I walk down the street. I am her. It's who I am. And it is no coincidence that I have manifested success at this same level. It's like who I thought she was, she is. And so it's no surprise when I get opportunities that align with that level because they're an energetic match. So my message here today is if you have struggled with all the things that I've struggled with in the past, instead of trying to act like someone you're not, instead of trying to show up as this future version of yourself, I would encourage you to let go of all that and instead focus on how do I actually become her, which means how do I slowly over time evolve as a human being? How do I become a better version of myself? And when I reflect on the things I did, it was a lot of little things over almost a decade. It wasn't overnight. And it went from 2.0 to 3.0. And someday I'm going to be Jacqueline 4.0, right? And I'm going to keep evolving. That's the point. So where are you now? And what is the best version of you right now? What does that look like? How do you show up as the best you? What are the habits? What needs to change in your life? And you don't have to be so scientific about this. Like, I didn't sit down one day and say, once I have these habits, I will become her. It wasn't like that. It's just that I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be happy. And because of that, I followed my spark. I did things that made me feel aligned, that made me feel like myself. Especially after having a baby, I wanted to feel like myself again, and I didn't. There was definitely many months where I felt really far from myself. I didn't feel like the best version of me. I just didn't feel good. And that's okay. You might be in a place right now or a season right now where you're going through that. It's completely normal. But what matters is how you bounce back from it. And for me, I really believe that it was the culmination of all of the time and energy I've invested into creating my life, changing things when they didn't spark my light, and just simply asking myself, what feels good? What's going to make me feel good, feel proud? What's important to me? And I got really clear on what those things are. It is an extremely high level of self-awareness coupled with grit to go along the journey. Even when it's hard, even when things aren't going your way, it's just keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. And it's a willingness to thrive in all areas of your life. Not because you think you should have it all. Everything doesn't need to be perfect. You can have it all. I believe that. I also believe in the concept of essentialism, and in the book that the idea of having it all has really flawed us as individuals because we get so pulled in so many directions, and then we have very little in many areas instead of having a lot in a couple areas, which I really love. And I mentioned this book in a couple episodes ago, but the book is Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and I'm currently reading it and really enjoying it. If you want to start to do less and say yes to the things that are most in alignment for you, but say no to the things that are a distraction, then this is a really great book. And in Essentialism, he talks about this concept of having it all and how it really has caused us to almost like thin out our energy. Like we have a limited amount of energy every day. And if we're going to give it to so many different things, then there's so much less for the things that matter the most. And that's really what the book is about, getting clear on what are those few things that really matter. And when I think about that, I think about how I have invested my time and energy into things that matter for me, that make me happy, that excite me, that spark my light, whether it was my business and specifically the areas of my business that I love the most, whether it was in my personal life, spending time cooking, spending time upgrading my wardrobe because I want to feel my best. And what I love about all these things is it was never an intention of, well, Jacqueline 3.0 wears this, so I need to go buy that. It was like, I want to buy some new sweaters that are really soft and cozy and cute so that even on the days that I'm just home with Michael and we're not leaving the house, that I feel put together because I feel good inside when I feel put together. That was it. It wasn't anything about manifestation or trying to hack my way somewhere else. It was just like, how can I do the things that are going to fill my soul? If my soul feels so sparked and so filled, then I've done my job. And through that, I have actually become her. So that's what it's about. It's about stripping away all of the faking it. I actually have a saying on my desk. It says, faith it till you make it. which I like a lot better than fake it till you make it. It's believing in yourself along the journey. And while you're on that journey, it's having fun and feeling good. And it doesn't mean that things are easy. I think this is where people get confused. They're like, Jacqueline, how can you have fun and feel good if there's chaos? I mean, the amount of chaos I've experienced in the past 2 years has been insane. From buying a property right before Michael was born and renovating it, right before he was born, being 9 months pregnant, mopping the floors because our tenant was going to move in, to, traveling so much to speak when I was pregnant, Michael being in the hospital for 6 weeks. A lot of these things were hard. I found joy in showing up for myself, my dreams, and my family, even through the hard times. And I think that's what you have to learn. And through those experiences, you can come out on the other side and become the version of yourself you've always wanted to be. If you think of that person that's like, that's who I've always wanted to be, the person who insert. I've always wanted to be the person who would get up early and go to the gym. I've always wanted to be the person who would cook that delicious meal. I've always wanted to be the person who had the courage to pursue her own business. I've always wanted to be the person who would put herself out there and go for the things that she wants. What is it? Who have you always wanted to be? There is nothing stopping you from becoming that person except you. It's a decision. It's an effort. It's grit. It's also understanding science of our brains and how our brains work, and how it's easiest to rewire that identity through really small, consistent actions. And consistency and intensity are inversely proportional. So it's better to go into something with high consistency and low intensity than it is to go into something with high intensity and low consistency, because it's consistency over time that will form new habits, that will change our identity, and that will help us change our lives, period. So all of that is here for the taking. And it's no faking it. It's no lying to yourself. It's no pretending to be someone you're not. It's being you and watering the plant that you are, helping you grow and evolve to be the best version of yourself. And when you do that in a really genuine way that feels good for you and helps you ultimately create a life that sparks your light, that's what it's about. And fill all of the pieces that go into that, then you just will be her. And you just will start to see manifestations of things that kind of align with that level. So it's not rocket science. It's time and commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. And when you do, it feels so good. And my favorite part of all of it is that sometimes in the past, I would experience manifestations that kind of felt like the manifestation was ahead of my identity. Meaning I manifested some opportunity or amount of money or whatever it was that I just couldn't even believe. And one way to know that's true is like your internal excitement about it. So if you feel so jazzed up about a manifestation to the point where it just feels so crazy that you're getting this thing and so out of the realm of what you would think would be possible for you, that's usually a sign that the manifestation's actually ahead of your identity. Versus when you manifest something and you're like, this is awesome. And I'm not that surprised. I kind of knew that this was going to work out for me. I kind of knew this was going to happen. And I'm really thrilled about it. But you're not so high off the manifestation. That's because your identity is already there. So it's not like jazzing you up to the max because it's who you are every day. You already feel like that every day. So the manifestation coming in is not changing that. Today, most of my manifestations are in that energy. Years ago, most of my manifestations were in the other energy. The difference is that when you're in the other energy, you feel like it's a fluke. You feel like it's not repeatable, like it won't happen again. And you kind of feel like you have to overcompensate to make up for that. Whereas when you're grounded and clear, you can just be focused on being the best version of yourself and doing your best. And there's no part of you that's feeling like you're not enough or that you're not going to be able to do it again or that more opportunities won't come because you've already become that person. So it's so much better and more gratifying to experience manifestations this way. And it's not to say that it's bad or wrong if you experience them the other way. I would assume that we will probably all experience manifestations like that sometimes that are, our manifestation is a little bit ahead of where we're at. I'm not sure why that happens. I can't explain it, to be totally honest. But I know it happens sometimes. Maybe we were in that energy briefly, but we couldn't hold it. But what I also know is that when you become her, you get the consistency that you probably desired the whole time, right? Nobody really wants like a random manifestation that we can't maintain. Nobody wants, the random check in the mail, but our income didn't increase at all. Nobody really wants, the one date, but it didn't go anywhere and we're still single, right? We want the life-changing, consistent manifestations, which come from becoming her. So that's my hack. It's a decade in the making. It is really filling your cup and becoming the best version of yourself. And I think that part of the reason that it's a decade in the making, for me at least, is because I was figuring out who that person was. I think I'm about to turn 30 in a couple of months. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about my 20s. And I think a big part of my 20s was figuring out who I was and who I wanted to be. And the way that you figure that out is sometimes trying different things, right? And I don't mean this in the sense of just like career, like who I was going to be, what I was going to do every day, but more so my outlook on life and what works for me and how I want to show up and what I believe in to my core, what I believe is true for me and not only for me, but for the world. And those things were shaped by my experiences, both in my childhood, in my college years, and also in my years in my 20s. They were probably shaped the most in those years. And I think with a lot of things, I would swing really far one way and try that, and that wasn't it. And then I'd swing really far the other way and try that, and that wasn't it. And then I would find my true core beliefs that aligned with the way I wanted to live my life and the way I see the world and the way I want to teach my children to live their lives. So it's really beautiful to figure out what those things are. And I think that you figure that out over time. And that's part of the reason why manifestation can take time. And I think that if I could give my younger self advice, it would be to stop fighting that process, to stop trying so hard to be somewhere I wasn't, and just be a little happier and prouder of where I was in those moments. And I'm really grateful that today I can be really happy and proud of where I am now, even though it doesn't feel like the final destination, even though it feels like there's much more I know I'm going to do. And I'm excited about all of that. But I don't need to be there to be happy. I can be happy here simply because it's awesome. I created this and I'm so proud of it. And that's what happens when you don't give up, when you stay committed to your vision, And when you stay true to yourself through the process, you really learn who you are to your core. And I think that that is one of the best gifts the journey of pursuing our goals gives us, is an understanding of self. So I hope that in your journey of becoming her, you figure out who she is. And I can tell you for sure that she is better than any vision of her. It feels so much better in real life to be the best version of yourself than to imagine her. And by the way, fun fact, we have about 25% of listeners that are men. So this is not just becoming her, it's also becoming him. It's becoming the best version of you. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts in life, is living a life every day where we feel like we're the best version of ourselves. That just feels so good inside. It's so fulfilling. And I want you to have that. I want you to have that fulfilling feeling that we all deserve. So here's to becoming the best version of yourself. And alongside of that, a nice byproduct is manifesting all kinds of amazing things that you want, living a life that you want. It's awesome. And it's waiting for you. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you have an amazing week. I'm rooting for you along this journey of becoming the best version of yourself. And I will catch you in the next episode.